Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, Avodah Zarah Daf Chaf Daled. We begin actually 18 lines off the top of the Amud. So let's backtrack a bit for a little context. We have Shitas Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer's opinion is one may not trust a guy with an animal, so you can't place your animal under his care for concern that he might actually mate with the animal, he might sin with the animal. Likewise, one cannot supply himself with an animal from a guy to be used for a carbon for that same reason. In addition to that, in terms of a red cow for a paraduma, that entails an additional concern because there is a pasuk that it can only be supplied by a yid. Now, what about that story where they went to purchase the paraduma from a guy, none other than Dama ben Sina? How could they do that? According to Rabbi Lezer. So in terms of the Jewish supplied animal requirement, they were able to work around that because it was first purchased by a Tagori Yisrael, a Jewish merchant, a middleman who then forwarded to the Chachamim for the Beis HaMikdash for the paraduma use. So once it's purchased from a yid, that's okay, even though it originated by the guy. In terms of Revia, in terms of the sinning concern, well, the Gemara concluded that apparently there was some surveillance. It was under watch from the moment of birth. So that sidesteps that issue, and we're safe. Amamar, let's go back and review what we said yesterday. The reason why they can purchase this paraduma from Dama ben Asina was because Yisrael was under watch. There were Yisraelim watching from the moment it was born. Asks the Gemara, hold it, that's not enough. You have to go back to the mother as well, because perhaps the guy sinned with the mother. When this paraduma, today's paraduma, was still in its unborn state, in its fetus state. And the halacha is Dama Rava Vlad Hanegachas Asur. Just as if the animal gores, it's liable to death and you can't have any benefit from it. The Vlad Hanegachas as well. The unborn embryo within the mother animal is also covered by that ban because it took part in the attack. It experienced the act together with the mother. Likewise, in terms of Revia, in terms of the interaction with the animal, Vlad Hanirubas Asur, just as the mother is Asur because of Revia, likewise, the unborn baby within the mother is affected as well. Because the mother, Uvlada, and her unborn child, Nirbu, they both experience this sin. So what good is it to have surveillance from the moment of birth? Perhaps the experience occurred while it was still in its unborn state. You're right, Ema will revise it a bit. Yisrael ha'yimshamar oisa, the way Yisraelim watching the animal, the mother animal, mishasha noisra. From the moment that the eventual paraduma was actually conceived within the mother, from that moment on, she was under their watch. Asks the Gemara, hold it, that's not enough. Perhaps Revia took place with the mother prior to conceiving the paraduma. The Snana, we have a Mishnah that can affect the eventual offspring as well. All those that are disqualified from Mizbeach use, like an animal which had Revia done to it, well, the offspring are okay. They're unaffected by the mother animal. V'taniela, we have a brisa on this Mishnah. Rabbi Lezer says, Oyser, he doesn't allow it. Because something which is born from this disqualified animal is affected as well. So how could he allow this paraduma? Well, Hanichal Rava da Amar, according to Rava, who says, the Amar Rava, he quotes Amar Rav Nachman, Machlekes, Kishenir Buk, Shen Mugdashin, this Machlekes, which means to say Rabbi Lezer, who disallows even the offspring of a disqualified carbon is only when the experience occurred while the mother was already designated as kachim, as a carbon. So in that heightened status, since it became disqualified, it affects its offspring as well. Aval kashein chulin. But if the animal, the mother animal, was still chulin, was not kodesh, was not designated as carbon, so this experience doesn't really affect it at all. So the child that it eventually conceives and births is unaffected as well. So that would explain our story, because here the mother of the eventual paraduma was not kodesh, was not in any way holy or designated for carbon. It was a guy's animal. So any experience that it experienced prior to conceiving the paraduma certainly would not affect the paraduma, even according to Rebbe Lezer. So it's sufficient to have been on guard, on duty, starting from the moment of conception of the actual paraduma offspring. So that works according to Rav. According to the other opinion, who interprets the machlokes a bit differently. Machlokes kshenirbu kshen chulin. This machlokes, whether the mother's status affects its eventual offspring, and the chachamim who say it's unaffected. That's only when the mother animal was still chulin, was not kodesh at the time of this experience. So then it doesn't pass on, doesn't carry over. Aval kshem mukdash. But if the mother animal was already kodesh when the revia took place, divrei hakoil asur, all agree, even the chacham agree, that it's asur, which means to say that the psul that impacted the mother animal gets carried over to the offspring as well. But if the animal is chulin, when she experienced this experience, Rabbanan say the eventual offspring is okay, but Rebbe Lezer says it's not. How could Rebbe Lezer allow us to purchase a paraduma from B'dama ben Asina? What about the concern about perhaps the mother having been tainted even prior to conceiving this paraduma? Michael, how you can explain the story? You're right. Eimah will say like this: Yisrael Mishamar Ois, that we didn't watching Leima, the mother Mishasha Naitzu, from the moment that the mother of this paraduma was conceived. So then we're safe. Well, we're not done yet. Maybe the grandmother was tainted. V'neichash Dilma Ravo Leima Deima. Perhaps the grandmother of this paraduma was tainted. Kulak l'chashim. We're not going to go that far, and therefore we're not going to concern ourselves with that. Okay, so we pretty much explained how, according to Rebbe Lezer, they can purchase a paraduma from Dama ben Asina. Firstly, in terms of the requirement to have it supplied by a yid, well, they did. They had a yid buy it from the guy and turned around and sold it to the yid, and so it was purchased directly from a yid. In terms of the tainting concern, the reveal concern, the animal, as well as its mother, from the moment of conception, was already under surveillance, and in terms of grandmother, it's a bit too far. We're not going to go that far. Amar. So again, what do we say? Yisrael Mishaman Oisa, the animal was under watch, Mishasha Naitra, from the moment of conception. Now, why would we go and how would we know to expect a red calf from this? Right? Like they're not going to go, put shayimrim by every animal in the farm, right? Amar Rav Kahana, because there was a specific method employed to generate a paraduma. Kais adam, a red glass full of red material. They would place before the female when the mating would take place with the zachar, and this would affect its eventual offspring, akin to what Yaakov Avinu did back in Lavan's time, right? When he sort of orchestrated, arranged that the animals should bear a certain type of offspring, bearing certain types of, styles, right? So that affects the eventual birthing, the conception and birthing process. So that's what he would do, Dama ben Asina, and this way they expected a paraduma, they hoped for a paraduma, and they placed the animal under watch. Ihachi, Amaydamel Yikaran asks the Gemara, if it's so easy to produce a paraduma, why is it so expensive? as we said yesterday, right? The answer is, yeah, you can have a lot of red heifers, but it has to be perfectly red, perfect to the T. Even 2 black hairs disqualified, so it's hard to come by. Next question: why did they go to look after Dama ben Asina's herd? I mean, if you can just employ this method, just do it in a Jewish farm. His animals had a track record. It was known to produce. They were known to produce something with the genes, produce red animals. So they took their chances, hoping to get a good a catch over there. Says the Gemara, Yosef Rav Ami, Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. So these 2 Amoraim were sitting Akila at the entranceway to Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha's home, and they had a conversation regarding the aforementioned machlekes. Rabbi Lezer, who says you cannot supply your animal, you carve an animal from a guy. We're concerned about Reviyah, whereas the Rabbanan say, you know what, we're not really so concerned to disallow that. So Pasach Chad B'nai V'Amar. So one of these Amoraim opened up started the conversation like this. V'chein Hoya Rabbi Lezer Paisel B'chol HaKarbanos Kula. Just as Rabbi Lezer has this type of Reviyah concern by Paraduma, it applies to all Karbanos as well. Pasach Idu B'nai V'Amar. So his counterpart responded and said, okay, that's Rabbi Lezer's position. What's the opposing view? What did Rabbanan hold about this? How did Rabbi Lezer's colleagues respond to him? Well, actually, they sourced their opinion in a pasuk, describing the end of days where the Goyim will bring karbanos. Apparently, you can trust them with animals. Kotzoin, Kedar, even the Ishmaelim, the Arabs, they'll bring the animals for karbanos. Apparently, even a Goy supplied animal is kosher. Rabbi Lezer says, well, you're talking about Lasad Lavai. Kulam Gerim Grurim Hem Lasad Lavai. They'll have converted already. The reason why they're called Gerim Grurim, as we learned way back a couple of weeks ago, that we don't really accept Gerim at that time at Klal Yisrael's high. We don't accept Gerim. But they'll just, on their own, live a lifestyle of Yiddishkeit, and at that point, they're trusted with the animals. But nowadays we can't. Amar Rabbi Yosef Ma'ikra. Says Rabbi Yosef, where do I find that in fact the Goyim will adopt a proper lifestyle in the days to come? They'll all be speaking Safa Brura, the language of Hashem, the language of Torah. Perhaps they'll only retract and disconnect from Avodah Zarah, but not from Gilead Arayis. The pasuk says Shchem Echad. They'll be speaking the same thing we'll be on the same plane, basically. So even the Goyim will adopt the mitzvahs and live a proper lifestyle. So this aforementioned version of the conversation was Rav Papa's version. So it was one Amoyer responding to the other, etc. Rav Zvid had a slightly different version of the same discussion, that both of these Chachamim, Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, were sitting, and they both began by saying, Amri v'chein haya Rabbi Lezer poisel b'chol karbanos kulan. Truthfully, Rabbi Lezer applies this concern to all karbanos as well. We can't trust that the animal was untainted. But Amri, and they both came and got up again and said, look, the Chachamim disagreed. Umayo sivu lechavrei Rabbi Lezer, the Chachamim, who discount this concern, how did they respond to Rabbi Lezer? By quoting that pasuk, where we're going to allow Goy supplied animals in the Beis Hamikdash called Tzoin Keder Yikbetzulach. Amar Rabbi Lezer, well, that's not a proof. Kulam Greirim Grurim Him Lasad Lav. We're talking about when Mashiach comes, the world will be running on a new world order, right? Umay Kra, as we find in the pasuk, Yaz Efech Al Amim Safabrur. Everybody will be speaking the same language, a language of Hashem, the language of mitzvahs. Likrei kulam b'shem Hashem, right? Maskal of Yosef responds to that. That doesn't prove much regarding morality issues. V'dilma ma'bayis kacham v'dehadru, perhaps they'll do tshuva from Avodah Zarah, but nothing else. No, you can't say that. Clearly, they'll adhere to the laws and standards of morality as well. In which case, that would explain why we accept their karbanis. Meisvei, here comes a kasha, another one on Rabbi Lezer, who says that a goy animal is suspected of have been tainted. Even Moshe, this week's parsha, Moshe says last week's parsha, he says to Parai, right? Gamata, guess what? Not only are we going to go serve Hashem, you're going to even send along karbanis, Mr. Parai. Gamata titin b'yadein zvacham va'olos. How could he accept a carbon from a guy, from Parai? Koydem Matan Torah Shan, he says the Gemara. Well, we're speaking before Matan Torah when this halacha that an animal which had been tainted is unacceptable for the mizbeach, that didn't apply at that time. Tashmai comes another raya. Vayikach Yisro, Chaysin Moshe, right? Olos v'cham v'kim. Yisro brought along karbanis. Again, at that point he was a guy. Yisro Nami, the same answer as well. Koydem Matan Torah Hava was before Matan Torah, and these laws didn't apply. Well, that works if you say that in fact he came at that point. Hanichel Mandama, that works if you say Yisro Koydem Matan Torah Hava, that he came before Matan Torah. So this law did not apply. Elul Mandama, but according to the other shita which says that he came after the Torah had been given. Yisro La'acham Matan Torah Hava. So at that point, the rules kicked in. So Michael, how could you accept a carbon from a guy? Elo Yisrael Yisrael Zav, and the answer is he purchases animals from a yid, in which case they were presumed to be untainted. Interestingly, Taisa says, well, if Yisrael actually arrived after Matan Torah, so why did the Torah place Parshas Yisrael before Matan Torah? So he says, I'll just read the Taisus inside. He said, Tzorach Lema, this is the last part of the top Taisus here. Tzorach Lema de Lefisha Siper Revias Amalek. Sheher al Yisrael Rishona. It was the first. Amalek was the first to attack our nation. Here comes another first. On a good note, Mesaper Nami. Masa Yisrael Shehetiv Yisrael Rishona. He was the first outsider that came to help us. Me'etzach Hashuva. Shanasan Lahem, giving them good advice how to structure their leadership in an effective, efficient way. Interesting. Tashma, here comes another kasha. We find that Shaul spoke about them bringing karbanis, using animals from Amalek. Right? He explained why they left over the animal, they didn't destroy them. Tashma, Shaul, Mamaleki Evium, all these animals came from the Amalekim. Asher Chamal Am, Al-Meitavat Nabakar, the soldiers, the people were compassionate. They didn't want to destroy the animals. To bring karbanis. How could they? The answer is my meitav, it's my meitav. Even though it says that it was the best, not that they were going to bring those animals directly. They were going to sell them and use the money to purchase karbanis. Umayshna meitav. So then what's the point of saying they were the best? They're not going to be offered anyways as a karban. The likpats alayin zvina means to say that they're valuable, high quality, expensive animals that can fetch a high price. The likpats alayin zvina. Likpats means to jump, meaning there's a high demand for this type of animal, and it fetches a high price, and that's why Tashma. Here comes another raya. Vayemer Arvana El David. This was David HaMelech designated the Harabayas, which was then Arvana's estate. He says, Arvana, look, David, take everything. Yikach v'yal adonai HaMelech hatoiv be'enav re'ei habaka. Take the animals, la'oila, hamirigim, threshing rods, threshing boards, uklei habaka la'etzim. Take what you want. Take the animals for karbanis, the wooden equipment, use it as firewood. Apparently, it was a kasher carbon. But how? They're from a guy. Rav Nachman Arvana ger teshav havi. He wasn't just a plain guy. He was a guy who adhered to the 7 mitzvahs. Amongst them, Gili Arayis. So you can assume his animal was kosher. My merigim. What's this merigim item that he offered? Amarula mita shal turbal. It's this board used for threshing. My mita shal turbal. What is that? Iza the kurkusa the daishan is this grooved board that they use for threshing. Rav Yosef Micro, we find a hint that this meirigim piece of equipment is used for this purpose. He needs samtech l'meirig charetz, that place you like you're going to serve, you're going to be affected and attacked like this. Meirig charetz chodesh ba'pepiyos tadush haram v'taduk ugvois k'mois tasim, like this threshing board used to thresh on the mountains. Meisve, it comes a kash. Vesaporos, hello oilel Hashem. Here we go, another raya. This was when the Plishtim returned the Arain with the Luchais, right? And it came running with, it was delivered by cows. The Yidden accepted the Arain back with a gift, with the cows, and they took the cows and brought them as korbanis. Hold it, they were supplied by Goyim. How could you do that? You're right, there was a one-time exception. Farshim explained these animals were involved in a nace. They came walking on their own. In fact, we're going to learn later that they sang shira, so special animals got special privileges. Hachinami mistar will even prove to you that it was really something unusual, an anomaly that cannot be used as a precedent. Was otherwise, how could you be makar of a female animal, as a paro, as a cow, as an oila? Apparently, it was something unusual. Well, my kushi, that's not a problem. Maybe it was a private altar, which allows even for an oila to be in a keva. How do we know that in a bama in a private mizbech, you can actually bring an oila as a female? So Shmuel took this tleh, which Rashi says chalav means it's a rachel umenika espina, a nursing animal, and he took this tleh chalav and he was makrav it as an oila. So you see, he was makrav and it came for an oila in a bamas yachid. Well, says the Gemara, Vayalehu zachar mashma. Alehu is masculine, right? Is zachar. Who says it's a nekeva? Amar Rav Maritzah Vayalehu ksiv. That although it's read Vayalehu, but since it's spelled without the vav, we learn it as a nekeva, as if it would be vayeleha, and he was makar even in a nekeva. And the Farshim explained that the Gemara in the Kasha, even though it says tle chalav, it doesn't necessarily mean it was the nursing mother. Rather, it was the tle, the sheep, which is a nursing sheep, but it could be in itself was a izachar. That was the Kasha. The Gemara responds by saying, look, the spelling of the word indicates that in fact it was a nekeva. Hence, we've just proven that you can take a nekeva and be makar for an oil if it's a bamas yachid. And that would explain how could they be makar the paris, likewise who are females, on as an oila, because it's a bamas yachid. So you don't really have a proof to your suggestion that in fact it was something unusual that took place at that time, which would explain why they allowed themselves to use an animal from a guy. You have no right that it was in fact something of an anomaly. But in any case, the Gemara did actually use that as an answer. You can't. We're afraid of tainting. The answer is it was something unusual, harasha. Continues the Gemara. So if we backtrack a bit to the beginning of our sugya, right? The beginning of the parak. The trigger point was our Mishnah, which says you can't trust a guy with an animal. We're concerned about Revia, whereas the Brisa says, Loichem behema. The carbon, you can purchase a behema from a guy, don't worry about anything. So the first teretz that we gave was the name of Rav. It all depends. His own animal, he wouldn't risk harming, because this type of interaction actually harms the animal, makes it unable to give birth. So if you're buying an animal from a guy, you can assume it was unaffected by his behavior, as opposed to leaving your animal in his possession. That poses a concern. Comes Rabbi Yechon and he says, look, not all cases are created equal. It depends on the age of the animal. Rabbi Yechon Amar Gvul Yeshla, there's a very distinctive line to be drawn over here in terms of age. The animal is below 3 years old, so this interaction with the owner would actually serve detrimentally to the animal. It makes it unable to give birth, sterilizes it. Bas Gimel Shanam, but once it hits 3, it's unaffected by this behavior. In Nekeres, it's unaffected. In which case, if you want to buy an animal from a guy, make sure it's underage, and then you're good. Because then he's deterred from doing this to his animal, lest he harm it. Eis Fikalani Tiyufta. So all these questions were asked Rabbi Yechon as well. If you're saying that above 3, the animal is deemed to be tainted, unkosher. What about, Moshe who offered Pari Karbanis and right to take his Karbanis, and Yisro brought Karbanis, all these stories. If they're Goysha animals, how could you trust them? Shani Lusa, Rabbi Yechon responded, Pusim Bas Gimel Shanim. All these were young animals below 3, where there's a strong deterrent for the Goy to behave properly. Tashma, it comes to the raya from the paras that we just mentioned. That's a paras Helo Oil Hashem. They use the paras as karbanis. Again, how? Pusim Bas Gimel Shanim. Okay, below 3, same teretz. Maskefot of Huna Breder Nosen. How could you say it's below 3? How do you explain the pasuk? They clearly had offspring with them. They had calves. That's the name Kol Babayis. They kept their offspring, closed up in the house. So they kept them away from the mothers, but clearly they had offspring, and that would very much indicate to us that we're speaking about mature cows, because they can't give birth below 3. That's the halacha. Prusa Gimel Shanim Mika Yolda. If they're below 3, then they can't. They're underage in terms of giving birth as well, as we find in a Mishnah Vatnan. So there's a Mishnah in Bechayris. Halacha is that a firstborn animal is a bechor. It's given to the kohen, offered as a korban on the mizbeach. Now, let's say you buy an animal from a guy. You have no idea whether the next animal is the firstborn or not. You don't have the animal, records in front of you. So what do? Sometimes age can determine. Part of a chamar bas gimel badel kohen. So if you bought the animal as it was hitting 3 years old, so certainly the next baby is the first offspring. It could not have birthed beforehand. Too young. So certainly you give it to the kohen. Past that point, let's say he's 4 or 5 years old, then you're not sure. You don't know. So you have to deal with it as a suffix. Is it the firstborn? Is it not? And Rashi explains how to deal with it. But in any case, clearly the animal cannot possibly give birth below 3. So clearly those parrots who already had kids were above 3. Back to the question. So how could you accept it from the guy without concern of being tainted? Apparently the correct approach is, like we said before, that apparently it was a ra'ashah, something exceptional for the moment, not to be compared to other cases. On the topic of the parrots who came carrying the arayin, we find very miraculous phenomenon that were associated with that story. So the pasuk says, "Vayisharna ha-paros baderech al derech beis shemesh." They came along singing. My Vayisharna, what's Vayisharna? Lashon of Shira. Amar Rabbi Yechon, Shon Meir, Amar Shira. They sang to Hashem on account of this miraculous phenomenon. Rav Zutra Batuvia Amar, Rav, he explains it a bit differently, that Vayisharna has a double meaning. Firstly, Sheyishru Pneim Kneged Arayin. Although the cows were walking ahead, they were pulling the arayin in the wagon, but they turned their heads back and faced the arayin and sang. So by Yisharna means they aligned their heads back to the arayin, and also lashon of shira. Sheyishu pnei negen harim b'amru shira. Okay, so what did they sing? My shira, we have many opinions. My shira amru, Amr Rabbi Yochanan, he quotes Mishur Rab Meir. They sang Gaz Yoshem Moshe Bnei Yisrael. Rashi explains because it has Ashir Hashem ki go'e go'a, right? Hashem vanquished the enemies, right? Knocked down the Plishtim and their Avodah Zarah, and retrieved the arayin in a miraculous way. Rabbi Yechon, the day Rabbi Yechon himself says, actually, they recited that pasuk in Yeshaya Yud Beis as an expression of thanksgiving to Hashem. Amar, he says it was Mizmoira Yasma, an orphaned chapter of Tehillim. This is chapter 98, Tehillim Tzadik Ches. The reason why it's called a Yasma because there's no known author. It's recorded anonymously. That's why it's called a Yasim. And it reads, Mizmor Shir Hashem Shir Chadash. Kiniflois Asa. Shir Lo Yemina Yisrael Kach. Rabbi Lezer Amar, he says it was Hashem Malach Igrisu Amim, on account of vanquishing the enemies. Rishon Rachmeni Amar, Hashem Malach Yislavish, that next pasuk, that was said by the cows. So the second time in history that an animal spoke, right? Bilam and Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha Amar, Roini. Oh, they actually composed their own original poem, describing Hashem's greatness and this miraculous phenomenon. Roini, roini. Sing and sing. Hashita. Shita here is the aron, right? The casket holding the luchos and the Sefer Torah is called Hashita because it's made of cedar wood. Elevate yourself, with your great splendor. One who is adorned, coated with gold adornments, because the aron, of course, was coated on the inside and out in gold. Hamulala b'dvir armain, who's proud with its dvir. Dvir is the Sefer Torah. It's inside the aron. Umafay ora b'diadoyim, adorned with all kinds of ornaments, meaning the Sefer Torah, the greatest of all things. That was their little speech. Rav Ashi actually applied Rav Yitzchak's poem to a different context. We have a pasuk, Vayiben Soya Aron. So in the Midbar, back in the Midbar, when the Aron was transported, Moshe would get up and declare as follows: Kuma Hashem, right? Hashem, lead us to conquer our enemies, protect us. So at that point, when Moshe Rabbeinu was saying this, how did our nation respond with this original poem? Yisrael my Amr, what did they say? Amr Yitzchak, Roini Roini Ashita v'chulu, as we said. So within this poem we have the word Devir, which is referring to the Sefer Torah. Amarav, Keman Karu, Parsoy. Today the Persians, they call it L'Sifra, a book, they call it Devir. So how did they get that word to describe a sefer? We have a pasuk for it. Mehacha. V'shem Devir Lefan Kiryas Sefer. So the city that they conquered in Yisrael, which they renamed Kiryas Sefer, was originally called Devir. So we see Devir and Sefer are synonymous. One more point. Rav Ashi Omar Kaman Kore Parsoy Lenida Dashtana. Nowadays the Persians, a woman who is experiencing her nida state, they call her Dashtana. Where does that come from? Mehacha comes from the pasuk in the Chumash. When Rachel Imenu told Lavan, Ki derech nashim li, I'm right now in the midst of derech nashim, the way of a woman. And Rashi says it's nutrikin. It's a concentrated word. Dashtana comes from ki derech nashim li. So in fact, this term Dashtana is rooted in the pasuk in the Torah. Okay, for a brief recap, we have Shitas Rabbi Lezer, who's very concerned about Revia. Don't buy an animal from a guy and use it for a carbon, lest it have been tainted and disqualified. So how did they allow themselves to buy the paraduma from Dama ben Asina? So first of all, it was supplied by a Jewish middleman, which sidesteps the requirement to have it purchased only from a Yid. And regarding Revia, well, there were Shaimrim, it was under surveillance from day one to ensure that it stayed pristine, unaffected. The Chacham disagree. They hold that we can actually bring the proof from the Psukim Lasad Lavai that even an animal supplied by a guy is acceptable. The Gemara has many kashas on Rabbi Lezer. We have Paroi, we have Yisroi, we have the Amalekim animals, we have the Parois that transported the Aron back, and we had answers for all these kashas. And then we discussed the special song, the Shira, sung by these special animals as they were transporting the Aron back to David HaMelech and to Klal Yisrael, to eventually be placed in the Beis HaMikdash. All the best to you and Hatzlacha.